Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. It's your girl, Denise Salcedo, and I am super excited because today we are joined by none other than Elayna Black. Elayna, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm good. How are you? It's good to be here.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you on because, I am always constantly covering wrestling, constantly covering NXT and all of that. And you have no idea how many people that follow here on the channel are big fans of yours. So I just know everyone's going to be excited when they see your face pop up.
Well, I'm excited. I appreciate all the support. It's always up and down. So when I see the support, it does mean a lot to me. So I'm excited.
Yeah, it's like honestly, like it just you've been doing so much. I'm so excited for what you have going on in your future. You're getting back out there, you're super busy, and you know what? You're killing it. Like you've got so much that you've been doing. I've been loving you seeing you go around and do all of the media rounds. Your video that you just put out where you killed off Cora Jade. I mean, just everything that you've been doing. I guess we'll kind of start there. How are you with everything that's been going on?
Yeah, I feel good. I feel like it's like the dust has kind of settled a little bit now. So it's like all the chaos has kind of settled a little bit, and I've had time to just to myself and to think and to start wrestling again, which was great to do. I didn't wrestle for like I think 2 months before I just had my match at Black Label, which was great. Can't say enough good things about that company and Rachel Armstrong. She was great. But yeah, I'm just excited to get back into the swing of things. Obviously, it's a bit of a change, but nothing I'm not used to. Obviously that's how I got started into wrestling. So it is nice to be kind of back where I started, and just feels like I don't know if grounding is like the right word, but it just feels good to be back where I started, around all the people I started with. It feels good to be at that place right now.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, even just seeing again everything that you've been doing, I'm seeing how motivated you are to not, let the stuff that went down with WWE get you down, but to rebuild yourself so that, hey, you never know, at some point you can be back and they're gonna be like, hey, yo, girl, like we missed you. We should have kept you this whole time. And that's been, really cool to see. So I kind of want to start there. I want to start with the video that you made where you killed off Cora Jade. How was that for you to do that? Because you were Cora Jade for, several years and you get attached to a character, you get attached to a persona. So how did that feel for you?
That was a lot of fun. That video, I kind of had that. I had little bits and pieces. I kind of wanted to do a vignette. Just I don't even know if it was going to be for a character change or just a different level of something for Cora Jade. In WWE, I had a little bit of ideas, and I did make some suggestions that never ended up coming to life, which is fine. But I knew that I wanted to do something once I left, and I had a little bit of ideas. But I had made a post just looking for a videographer. I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do. But then this guy, Kyle Kogan, reached out to me. He's done a bunch of videos. He did one. The main one I saw was he did one with Matt Cardona, and Matt Cardona is king of the indies. But honestly, it's true. He does a great job of just keeping himself relevant and doing different ideas all the time. Just he's great at that stuff. So I saw that and I was like, that's really sick. And then I saw a bunch of other videos that he did with some other, like, he just works with a bunch of people, athletes, actors, whatever. So he's based in Chicago and LA, and I'm from Chicago. So I was like, I think it'd be cool if we got together in Chicago to do a video. I kind of gave him a loose outline of ideas that I had, and he's a creative genius. Like I loved working with him. He's great. He took these little bits and pieces of ideas that I had. He listened to my story and he helped me like put it into what it became, which the video means so much to me. We put so much time and effort and passion into that. But it was emotional a little bit because it is like that was me for 4 years of my life. And it was essentially like the video was killing off Cora Jade, and it was for show and like, story and just deeper character development and all that stuff. But it was true. Like it is a death in a way. That was who I was for 4 years. And I did become attached to that character and that aspect of my life. So in a way it was like kind of sad, but it did feel like a new beginning, like a rebirth, if you will.
Yeah, I get that because it is sad to kill something that you had worked on. But in a way, it's also kind of empowering because now you've basically said, all right, I'm done. There's no pity party. We're moving forward.
Exactly.
And now there's this like whole world of possibility. And, you're only 24 years old, Elayna. And I was thinking to myself, like, you have done so much. You're so ahead. Girl, I was not anywhere near, had done nothing at the age of 24 that you have done. So I feel like you got to give yourself props for that because
Thank you.
again, you've gotten so much life experience. So let's go ahead and kind of start there. You're going back out there. You're Elayna Black. You're back in the Indies. Unfortunately, this time in WWE did come to an end, and I will tell you that seeing all of the releases and names that came out, obviously it was very surprising for several names, but when yours popped up, I just thought to myself, what the F? Like, this is not. Nope, hold on. I read this wrong. No, this is not the Cora Jade that I know, some other Cora Jade. Like, it was very hard to kind of process that. And that's from an outsider's perspective. So for you, obviously, that's your work. So how did you feel in that moment?
I've said it a few times before. I don't know why. I've just always been very good with my intuition, and when I have a feeling of something, it kind of tends to happen. So nothing crazy happened. I can't say there was a specific instance that happened. I just kind of had a feeling for probably 2 weeks beforehand. So, which I feel like I'm grateful for, just whatever sense came over me that I had, because I feel like I did have like 2 weeks to kind of mentally prepare. Like, I had a great time in Vegas, WrestleMania week with Roxanne, my best friend. Like, we just spent all week. We had one match and then we did some WWE World stuff together. But honestly, I just took that weekend of like, this is my last probably like WWE run. I don't know what told me that, but I'm glad that I had that sense in the back of my head, because I do feel like I kind of ended it how, like, in my head I was ending it how I wanted to, I guess. But I feel like everyone has that in the back of their head too at some point. Just, it's such a cutthroat company, and there's so many changes going on right now, especially with TKO. They're transitioning from indie wrestlers to athletes, and there's just so many changes going on. And I can sit here and think of a few things of why I think I was let go, but I don't think I'll ever actually know the real reason. And honestly, I don't need to know the real reason. I don't think any, like, there's so many things in life that we'll never have answers to, and I'm not going to sit here and be sad or beat myself up over trying to find out why. Or I think everything happens for a reason. And you said it. I'm 24 years old. I don't know where I'll end up. I'm not against going to WWE again in the future. I'm not against going to AEW in the future. I'm not against going anywhere or anything, because I'm just open to whatever right now. I'm having fun for the first time in my life, just being present and not focusing on worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow, or what storyline I'm going to have to, or what I have to do next. And just, I'm very present and excited right now, and I'm just open to whatever. I have no hard feelings towards WWE. It is what it is. Obviously, there's things that, I've said it before, that pissed me off, but it's because I'm a human and I love wrestling and I'm so passionate about it, that if I wasn't pissed off about certain things and I was just, along for the ride, then that would be a bit concerning, I feel like. So everything happens for a reason. It is what it is. Maybe I'll be back there one day. Maybe I won't. I don't know, but it is what it is, and I'm excited for this time right now.
You mentioned some of those things that pissed you off, and we know those things. You were very open about them. You've talked about them. And, to come out and to be able to say, like, hey, this is what happened. These are some of the details of what went down with the body shaming and, the reports that came out about some of the releases being quote unquote lazy and all of that, right? And, people can take that and misconstrue it, or take that and sort of manipulate. They make their own truth, their own variation to that when you see certain things come out. And you're like, okay, I know my truth, and that's what I'm putting out there. But it can be hard when you got this huge spotlight on yourself, and it can be hard to talk about these things. When you have came out and you talked about this on Twitter, on interviews, how do you feel about putting that stuff out there and letting people know, like, hey, this is what happened?
I feel like, I don't know, that was like a big, I don't know if it was a mental battle in my head, if that's the right terminology, but when I got released, obviously I knew I was going to do interviews, and you do think about what you're going to say and stuff like that. But I always knew I never wanted to, and I don't have any reason to burn my bridges with WWE. I'm not going to ever sit here and be on unabashed WWE tirade and all that kind of stuff. But I did know that I also never want to be one of those people who, just because it was my dream and because it was, everything I ever wanted, I'm not just going to come and be fake and be like, everything was perfect and I loved it. And just because, because I want them to call me back. Like, that's not the case at all. I'm very confident in who I am and what I'm doing right now. So I'm not necessarily waiting for that call. Like I said, if it comes, it comes. If it doesn't, that's fine. I'm doing my own thing right now. But I can, like I said, you can sit and wonder and just beat yourself up over whatever. But, you know, at the end of the day, it is what it is. And I'm happy where I am right now. So
here's the thing. I 100% agree with you when it comes to like speaking your truth, because again, just because you're speaking your truth doesn't mean you're necessarily bashing someone or some place.
I always wanted to remain, that was, I guess, what I was trying to get to. I always wanted to remain real in the sense of like, this is my truth, this is my story, this is what I went through. I'm not sitting here bashing WWE. I'm not talking shit about them. I'm not, you know, sitting here blowing up the internet because I'm pissed off. It's just, I'm a very blunt, real person at the end of the day. And yeah, it was my dream. I did love it. I love my time there. There's so many things I'm grateful for. There were things that pissed me off, so I'm not going to sit here and be quiet and just act like it wasn't, because at the end of the day, I feel like everyone deserves to speak their truth. And that doesn't mean that I'm talking shit on WWE. It was just my truth.
I get you too, because hearing you say like, hey, I went through these things, it makes you wonder like if anybody else has gone through something similar or maybe is going through something similar. Of course, we don't know, but we don't know because we haven't heard very many people come out and say it. And so hearing you say it, it's one of those things where I'm like, oh, my thought to that when I heard you talk about the body shaming, I thought, damn, I really hoped that was already put in the past, that I was already back in the day. I personally thought that we had moved forward from that. And when you spoke about this, and, you know, I was thinking about how young you were when you were, you know, you're young right now, and you were even younger when you were hearing this stuff. So I just kind of thought, you know, like as a woman, I'm thinking like, oh, hell no. Like I would be so freaking pissed if this was happening to my sister or someone that I knew. And to hear that happened to you, it is upsetting, because no one understands how people criticizing your body can make you feel like shit. It really can. And it's like, yeah, I may not have these certain looks or these certain body parts or whatever, but that's not realistic to everybody. And I think that girls, when you are, you know, watching NXT and you, or WWE in general or anything, girls see other girls and are like wondering, hey, when am I going to look like that? Chances are you probably never are, because it may not be what you were meant to do. And so it's just one of those things that I did feel bad and awful reading what you had wrote. And I really hope that that's not happening to other people.
Yeah, obviously, I feel like, you know, that I was very young at that time, and you know, not to say that it didn't happen, you know, on more than one occasion. But I guess my sense in putting that out there wasn't to bash WWE, and maybe it did look like that in a way, because I did tweet out of anger at a point, and I think everyone does at some point, which isn't the best. But I did see that lazy dirt sheet article, and it did piss me off, because I was like, if you only knew. But it's just, I feel like, if anything, I just hope that me saying something, I'm sure there are girls that feel that way. Every woman feels that way at some point. I'm sure someone's saying to somebody right now, who knows? But I hope, all my hope is that by seeing that, maybe someone, I don't know, someone higher up or anybody saw it, maybe it was like, hey, that's kind of fucked up. Like, maybe we should like not speak on women's bodies, or like, I just hope that whatever, who knows, maybe it didn't, maybe just pissed somebody off. I have no idea. But my hope is just somebody saw that and was put something in someone's head to be like, hey, maybe we should like not talk about women's bodies like this. And then maybe I hope someone, maybe another female wrestler saw that and they feel like they can speak up, or, you know, stick up for themselves, because I feel like you should always be able to do that, especially as a woman. I don't think you should ever have to sit down and be quiet and keep your mouth shut out of fear of losing your dream job or something like that, you know, because I feel like my morals come before anything else. So I will always stand up for myself and what I believe in and what I feel is right, you know, rather than just sitting down and being quiet. And maybe that's my downfall. I don't know, but you know, that's just how I am. And I hope by that somebody either realized how they should be speaking to women anywhere, not even just WWE, anywhere, or I hope that someone, you know, who maybe felt that they're getting spoken to a way that they feel that they shouldn't, that it is okay to speak up, and you should.
There might be someone right now that hears your story, not even just in WWE, like in other places, because this happens in so many places. Like, you would think
it's not a WWE only thing. It is a worldwide thing. Everyone thinks this. And I open an OnlyFans. Everyone has an opinion on that. You know, it's like everyone has an opinion on a woman's body, and I just think it's the craziest thing in the world. Like, it's just ridiculous.
I agree too. You're like, hey, well, no, absolutely not. I do not condone that whatsoever. And I love that you are so young and you're so sure of yourself and where you stand, because like you said, it can be very scary to speak up. But I do think that there might be other women out there, other girls that are hearing your story and are going like, wait a minute, if this happened to her, I don't feel so alone in hearing that, this is happening to me. So I do love that you are, that you're brave enough, that you got the courage, man, to like speak out and say something about it. And hopefully that does change, or at least plants the seeds in people's minds that it's not okay and you should keep moving forward with that. Now, I do want to go ahead and get into, I want to talk about your return, because when you came back, oh my God, it was so exciting to see you like come back, and it was everywhere. Everybody was like losing their shit. I posted like a screenshot of you and we were talking about it on the podcast, and I will tell you, like, it got higher numbers than like so many of the other stuff I had been talking about. So that's a testament to you on that. And how did you feel? You had gone through so much to get to this point, to come back to NXT. How did you feel by this point?
I felt very, very motivated. Like towards the end of my knee injury, because I had just come back from getting my boobs done after dealing with the ectopic pregnancy stuff that I had dealt with only a few months prior, which is why I took the time off. And then right after, a month after coming back, I tore my knee. So it was like I was chasing this, like, I don't know what it was, this I don't know, my moment, I guess, is what I felt. I felt like I just kept chasing this thing, and it kept getting taken away from me. So by the end of my knee injury, I rehabbed my ass off. Like, I was in rehab the day after surgery. For 2 hours a day, every single day. I think the only day I didn't go in was Sundays. So every single day I was doing rehab. I wanted to be back as soon as possible. I was trying to get back by the 8-month mark, which is a little early, but I think I made it like right at the 9 months, because I just didn't want to miss any more time. Like, I felt so, for the first time in a while, after all the things that I had been through, I felt very good mentally, physically. I felt the best I had felt in a while. I felt ready. I felt like this was actually going to be my time. And then, obviously it wasn't, but I do look back at, feel like those last like 6 months of my WWE career, from when I came back to when I got fired, was genuinely probably the most fun I've ever had in my time there. Like, I feel like I genuinely couldn't have ended it a better way. Like, I got to work with Bailey. She's like one of my best friends now, but I looked up to her so much I still look up to her, but I looked up to her so much as a fan. So being able to be in a storyline and actually wrestle her, and we main evented a pay-per-view together, and then do it with Roxanne too, who we've been friends since before we even got to WWE. And then I became so close with Julia and Stephanie. They became like some of my best friends. So I have all these memories, like, of just going out after the shows with them and just laughing and all this stuff. It's like, I have all these great memories, and honestly, a lot of it doesn't even have to do with the job itself. It has to do with everyone I was with and all the memories I made and all these things I got to do. And just, I'm very happy with how it ended, I guess is what I'm saying. I feel like I couldn't have done it a better way. And with the people I got to do it with, I have such good memories. And I felt like it was the perfect, like, at least for me, like, maybe not everybody else's perfect storybook ending, but like the way it went, the times that I had, the things that I did, like all the memories I have now, like, especially from those last 6 months, I feel good. Obviously there's things like I didn't get to do that I would have liked to do, but I'm not going to sit here and cry about it. Like, it's just, maybe one day, maybe not, I don't know. But I did have a very, very, very good time in my last 6 months there. I felt like it was like my dream time there. I got to do with my best friends, and I had fun. So we'll see, but it was fun.
I love that, because I've always liked hearing about the camaraderie between the girls, and, hearing you talk about these friendships that you made. It's very nice. And I think at the end of the day, those are the memories that you take away from you. You mentioned that these last 6 months were your most favored during your time period in the company. And I think during this time, like, the fans were really sensing that you were going to become NXT Women's Champion. It really felt like that was going to happen. Did you feel like it was going to happen, or did you feel differently?
I don't know. I feel like when I first started, I was always like, started in WWE, I was always chasing like the NXT title. Like, that was my main goal. And I became like obsessed with it. So I kind of got to a point where I was like, It might happen, it might not. I'm not necessarily like sitting up waiting at night thinking about it. So I felt like I got to the point where I wasn't trying to guess what was going to happen because I was just driving myself crazy that way. I was just working my ass off and trying to be the best version of myself for any opportunity that came my way. And I did have a conversation 2 days before I got fired with somebody in creative, and they, were talking about the North American title and stuff like that. And then I got fired 2 days later. So I was like, it's weird, but okay.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, I don't know, from an outsider's perspective, it feels like there are decisions being made like on NXT Creative and the people that are working behind the scenes to really put the show forward. And then there's the other people who are making the decisions as to like who gets released or who gets moved up to a main roster or whatever, right? And it feels like from an outsider's perspective, like there's a little bit of a disconnection. And I say that because sometimes you can see that in the programming where it's like, this person just won the title. Oh crap, now they're being called up. Drop the title. Like you can see these changes being made. So hearing you say that there was conversations about you winning a title and then 2 days later you release, there does feel like there's a big disconnection there.
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't think anybody really, I mean, unless you're really, really high up there and you know all the ins and the outs, I don't think anybody really knows. I just think there's so much change going on right now, especially, with TKO and just, I don't know what, like maybe, who knows? Maybe there was someone sitting at a desk at TKO, they turned on NXT and they didn't like me and they said, get rid of me. I have no idea. I don't even necessarily know how it works there anymore. I just know that there's so much change and I don't know who has control of what at this point anymore, but I just know that that's another one of those things that I could sit there and wonder and drive myself crazy for it. But I have no idea, like there's just so much change going on. And I guess I just did not fit the change that they're heading in, which again, it's fine. It's no hard feelings. Maybe 2 years from now I will, maybe 2 years from now I won't want to. I don't know. It's just like this, I'm just in such a position right now where I'm just trying not to think about the future just because I've driven myself crazy with that before. And, who knows?
They say that when you're worried of so much about the future or the past, you're not living in the present and in the now. Like this is the future you were worried about, X amount of years ago or however. And I think, yeah, like we have to remain present. But I think you really have this good head on your shoulders on how all of this works because, anybody else could be like distraught. I'm done. I'm going to go cry in my bed for 50 years or whatever, right? But no, I really think you're getting the ball rolling now. Here's the thing I also wanted to ask you about because the NXT women's division, it's like stacked. And there's this mix of, these girls that have been there and they've been working so hard and they've been trying to get to the top. And then there's a mix of, okay, now we got these new faces who just came in and they're getting all of the attention. When you were kind of in and out of NXT with everything you were dealing with, how was it getting used to this new locker room with new faces or added faces? How was that?
Obviously, it's very different. I can't say enough good things about the NXT women's locker room. Like, I loved all those girls. I was friends with most of them. Like, it's such a great locker room, and everyone is really like very close and like it is like a sisterhood. But it was very different, especially coming in as it kind of felt like me and Roxanne's class were kind of like the last indie wrestlers that were really brought in, at least for a long time, before they started just bringing in strictly college athletes. And I think they do it for a reason, and it does work to a degree. I did have my opinions on some things just because like stuff that would bother me was an example, like people would come in and they didn't come from wrestling and they didn't know anything about wrestling, and that's fine. No one's going to say no to an opportunity to come into WWE, obviously. No one's shitting on them for that. What would bother me is when these people come in and they just think that they should be handed everything because they came from a great college sport. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. You've never even built a wrestling ring before. Like, you need to work from the ground up. So that would be frustrating when people come in and just think that they deserve things because they came from somewhere else. And it's like they can't even tell you. Just an example, just throwing an example out there. One day John Cena came for a presentation. He would do that sometimes. He would just come talk to people. And I specifically remember someone raising their hand to ask him how his time in NXT was. And it's a little thing, but it was just so many things like that. It just became so frustrating where like it felt like the culture of wrestling was being lost. And that's what I got brought up in, and that's what I watched. And like I remember when I was like wanting to be a wrestler at 8 years old, I was like studying as much as I could because I was scared someday someone's gonna ask me a question about WrestleMania 3 and I don't know the answer and then I'm gonna get fired. Like, I took it so seriously. So then when people were coming in and they couldn't even tell you who the champion on Raw at that time is, because they don't even take the time to watch or understand, or because they have no passion for it. That is when it became very, very frustrating. And I feel like it got so overwhelmingly annoying to me that I let it get to me so bad that it got to a point where I was just like, I can't even think about this stuff anymore. But I think it does work out in a lot of instances. Someone like, I feel like I always reference her, but I love Kalani Jordan. She's someone who didn't come from wrestling, but she works her ass off. She knows her history. She puts in the effort. She loves it now. Like, people like that. And then, Tiffany Stratton's another example. She didn't come from, she thinks she trained in wrestling, but she just discovered it randomly on TV one day, and she was a college athlete, and look at her now. Like, there are people who it works for, and they actually take this job and fall in love with it, and then their passion for it shows. But then there's the times where it's like, Jesus Christ, like, come on. Like, now I'm sitting here without my dream job that I worked my ass off for, and someone is sitting there who can't even tell you who was champion 6 months ago. It gets to a point where it's like, those are the things where I could sit and get mad about and, sit here and be pissed off about. But again, it's like, I can't change it. It is what it is. Like,
I 100% get you, because believe it or not, I see the exact same thing on this side of the business too, where I'm like, wait, you're supposed to be covering wrestling, but you don't even watch? What now? Believe it or not, it's a thing, and it could get frustrating because you're like, dude, like, I've been a fan my whole life. I like you said, I really resonated when you said, I'm so scared someone's gonna quiz me on something from forever ago, because even though you watch or something, you still want to be like informed. And I think that that's kind of this. I don't know what it is. I wonder if it's like a girl thing, because I remember seeing like this meme saying that like girls will never lie on a job application. I don't know how true this is. Maybe the guys in the comment sections can chime in on this, but like, we'll really worry about these extra little things because we're trying so hard to like prove yourself and prove that, hey, I really want to be here and I really want to do this thing. And this isn't like, I didn't just wake up one day and decide, hey, wrestling's a really easy business to get into. So I'm just going to do it because, whatever. And sometimes there are people like that, but it matters the work that you put in and whether or not you care to go back and learn the history or be familiar with what you're doing, what the business that you're in.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, I don't, obviously it works, and I don't want to sit here and say that that's everybody there. It is, it's a group of people sometimes, but I think for the most part, a lot of the people that they bring in are great athletes, and then they fall in love with it. And then a lot of them, I would say, do put that effort in, and they learn their history, and, they actually love it. But there is that handful of people, and it's like, it's just very frustrating. It's just very frustrating.
You're like, damn it. You're like, I've been a fan forever. And, it is one of those things though, too. But I think that when you go in and you really, really care, the fans notice that. They really notice that. And I feel like that's why you had such a strong fan base. And, for so long, I remember so many people would come into my chat and be like, when the hell is Cora Jade going to be champion? We want to see Cora Jade as champion. We want to see them. I'd be telling people, her time is coming. Her time is coming. I just know it is. Like, I just felt like it was. And so I do want to talk to you a little bit also more about your time in NXT, because you did get to do a lot of cool stuff. You mentioned working with Bayley, all of the new girls that came in too, your friendship with Roxanne Perez. Let's talk about that, because I've had Roxanne Perez here on the channel a couple of times, and she's just wonderful to talk to. And she really, really cares about this too. And so what is your guys' friendship like? How did you guys meet? How did it all come about?
Yeah, it's funny because I remember specifically, like, I used to run a WWE fan page on like Twitter and Instagram back in the day. I don't even remember what it was called at this point, but I remember seeing a picture, and I was a huge AJ Lee CM Punk fan, shocker, yeah. But I saw a picture, it was her, I think it's like a famous picture now, everyone will know what I'm talking about, but it's her, Roxanne and AJ Lee. She's meeting her as a kid, and AJ's like holding a coffee cup, and she has like her fake Divas title on. But I remember seeing that, like, because people were just reposting it because of AJ. But I remember seeing that at the time, and I was so mad because I hadn't met AJ yet, and I was so jealous, and I wanted to meet her so bad. And I see this picture of this girl who didn't look alike, but like similar vibes and everything, and I was like, I hated her. I was like, who is this little girl? I hate her. But then we ended up like, obviously a few years after that, we ended up just becoming friends on Twitter, like through indie wrestling. Like I think we had seen each other at shows and stuff, but we hadn't wrestled. We just became friends because we had such similar life stories. Like I feel like we have the pretty much exact same life story of how we got here and like wrestling fan wise. So we just became friends from that, and then we would always talk about like making it to WWE together. We did an indie match together. I think the only time we ever wrestled on the indies was like a 4-on-4, this crazy match with like Brussels sprouts and like sausage links. We were like hitting each other with meat. It was like the weirdest thing in the world. I don't even know why, but that's like our memory together of our first match together and our only match on the indies. But then we were just friends for that whole time. Always talked about making it to WWE. Then I got signed. I believe she was Ring of Honor Women's Champion at the time. And then I remember the day Ring of Honor, or whatever happened to Ring of Honor, where all their contracts were done or whatever. I remember Gabe Sapolsky, he's the one who got me signed. He got me my tryout. I remember literally texting him. I was like, text Roxanne, or Carla, it's her real name. It wasn't Roxanne yet. But I was like, text her right now. He's like on it already. Like, so immediately I was like, you need to get her. She came like a year after me, and then we've literally just been closer than ever. That's my best friend in the entire world. She is such a great wrestler. Literally one of the greatest women's wrestlers probably in the entire world, but she's such a great person too. She's so humble. She like we help each other. She would struggle with promos, and I feel like that was my strength. So I would help her with that. And she's a great wrestler, and I would struggle with wrestling sometimes, and I would get so nervous that she would help me. So it was like we were constantly just helping each other and building each other up. And then we got to do so many storylines together, and all the times we got to spend, like I said, afterwards. We literally created like a sisterhood that will like I'll have for the rest of my life, and I'm so grateful for that. And I'm so happy to see her killing it. She deserves everything and more. She is one of those people who didn't really, I think she was like a cheerleader, but she didn't really play sports. She was just a wrestling fan, dedicated her life to wrestling, would drive like 6 hours on a bus to wrestling training. Like we have such similar stories and passions. So seeing someone like her who genuinely loves it and deserves it and is such like a good, humble person, it makes me so happy for her.
It's funny that you say that you first hated her in the beginning, because I've heard people say that sometimes the people that you hate are the ones that end up becoming your best friends.
Exactly. And I had no reason to hate her. I didn't even know her. I was like 12 years old.
Right. That's so funny. And
It's
I
so
remember
funny, like how it all comes full circle.
yes.
In the entire world. I just saw her last night. We like now we see each other a little bit less often just because of our schedules now, but so we didn't see each other for like 2 weeks, and it was like you would have thought we didn't see each other for 2 years. That's my best friend.
How was that, telling her, hey, I'm no longer with the company? Because, when you, not only is it, sad for the end of your career, but it's also like, that you're not going to be able to see her as much like you would normally.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like I said, I just kind of always have like that intuition. So I was already telling her in Vegas that this was my last hurrah, and she knows me well enough to know that when I'm not like being dramatic. I think she was trying to tell me like, no, you're crazy, whatever. But she knows me well enough to know that I know when something is happening. So I think she was like, well, if she feels like that, I don't know. I think she kind of knew that like what I was feeling was true. So I think she was obviously shocked, because you don't think that that's actually going to be the case. But I feel like her shock was, a little bit less too, just because that's my best friend. I had been talking to her for 2 weeks, telling her like every little thing. But it is sad just because, there is stuff that we didn't get to do together. We didn't get to have like our WrestleMania singles match like we always talked about or stuff like that. But
you never know. You might still one day. You might still.
You never know, but she's so good at, she's just always there for me in any way. Just, I can always count on her, whether I need a laugh or I need to cry, and I'm not someone who like opens up to a lot of people or like cries like that to anybody. So she's like the one person I can go to and cry to and know that she's like the one person in the world I know like would defend my name in a room no matter if I was there or not, and like I feel like you always need somebody like that in your life, and she's that for me.
And that's not hard to come by the way, to find somebody that would do that for you, that would be there for you and genuinely care and not just be like, yeah, they're there. Let me talk about myself.
Yeah.
No, like that's really hard to come by. So
Yeah.
that's very lucky. When you think back to your time in WWE from like the first day you started all the way to the last day, how do you feel that you have like how would you describe like some of the biggest lessons that you learned, not just in general, but like even about yourself? Like how different do you feel from the first day?
I feel like I've lived 30 lives since I got signed. I just feel like such a completely different person in the best way possible. I got my tryout when I was 19 years old, turning 20. So I was so young. I was working at Dunkin' Donuts. I lived at home. I had never really done anything. So I'm going from 19 years old working at Dunkin' Donuts, living with my parents, to moving across the country, signed with WWE. And that was the first time I was ever really alone or doing anything as an adult. So obviously it is, I feel like I've just grown so much and learned so much, and I've been through, I feel like, so much, even more so than some people have gone through their entire life in just the past 5 years of my life, good and bad. But I feel like especially the bad, no matter what it is, I feel like I wouldn't be as strong and confident in myself and my beliefs and my morals and just so okay with who I am in my life if I hadn't gone through everything that I've gone through for the past 5 years. I had to learn to be strong physically. I had to learn how to be strong mentally. I had to learn to, deal with opinions coming in from Twitter, your peers, coaches, whether it's positive, negative. It just became so overwhelming and so many things were always happening. And, I just feel like I have become such a strong person because of everything I've gone through for the last 4 years. And I genuinely feel like if I hadn't gone through everything that I went through, personally, professionally, just everything that this brings, I wouldn't be who I am today. So I am grateful for the whole process, whether it was good, bad, ugly, it made me who I am today. And I genuinely don't think I would be as strong-minded, and I don't want to say not let things bother me as much, because there is stuff that bothers me still, but I feel like I'm at a point in my life now where I've realized I've been through so much. There's literally nothing, knock on wood, that you could do to me or say to me or could happen to me at this point that I haven't already dealt with or I'm not prepared to deal with. So, it is what it is, and I feel like I am grateful for the struggle.
Like Kelly Clarkson says, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I mean, those words could not be truer.
Even if it almost does kill you.
No, I mean, look, honestly, I've heard your story. I've seen your interviews. I know what you have spoken about and what you've been through. And again, I've been your age before. I had never, I have so much respect for you, because it really is one of those things that you said, not a lot of people have gone through stuff like that. And at that young age, it really is a lot. Now, I do want to go ahead and say that I want to ask, actually, because you mentioned some fun stuff in here that you're also doing aside from the wrestling stuff. It's also the OnlyFans page.
Yes.
And I want to ask you how that's been going so far, what the experience has been like for you.
That was probably the best financial career decision I could have ever made in my life.
You go, girl. Yes.
And, I knew the backlash that was going to come with it. But again, it's like I've been through so much. I've heard so much. I really don't give a shit what you have to say about it. I'm going to make money how I want to make my money. And if you don't care, or if you aren't a fan of it, you don't have to watch. You don't have to subscribe. You don't have to follow me. It is what it is. Now that I'm able to do, again, that comes back to telling women what they want to do with their bodies. It's not your business what I want to do with my body. If you don't want to subscribe, don't subscribe. If you do, thanks. But I'm now able to make insane income that I wasn't able to make before while still wrestling and doing any other project I want to do. The world is literally at my fingertips right now. I can do whatever I want, and I'm so grateful that I have the money to do what I want because of OnlyFans. That it really is a blessing, and I'm so grateful for it. So it's if you are mad about someone making money with their body, that is a whole other issue that I think you need to figure out on your own, because I've never once in my life, if it wasn't affecting me, who I love, what I do, what I care about, I don't give a shit what somebody's doing, especially with their own body and their money. It is not my problem, and I have too much going on in my life to worry about what other people are doing with theirs. So the fact that other people feel any differently is just very mind-boggling to me, but it is the internet and it is today's society, so it is what it is, but subscribe if you want.
Yes, I was about to say, well, regardless of any backlash, I think the backlash is worth it when you're getting that bankroll,
Exactly.
because that must be very nice to see.
Insult me, but like I'm charging you $5 to insult me. Like, come on.
No, I think it's very cool. It's very empowering to see that. And you just be like, I feel like you can have fun with it. And we've seen so many people have like such insane success in that world. And I mean, damn, like if you can make that kind of living, like, dude, like do it. Like if you feel like, you're happy and you're enjoying it and you're making money with it, like who's to say anything?
Exactly. And that's why seeing somebody like Mandy, who I think she just has done such a great job of just building herself into such a great, not only businesswoman, but she's like her own brand at this point. Like she has the best mind for like business. And I feel like a lot of people don't really know that about her, or because she's like a hot girl, like people just kind of look past that about her. But she's genuinely so smart and so humble and so just honestly one of the best people I've ever met. She's been so helpful to me, and not only helping me navigate all of this, but also just being an inspiration in terms of like seeing what she's been able to do after coming from WWE. And obviously she was on main roster, and she did Tough Enough and stuff like that. So she had a lot more equity than I feel I did. But she was still able to leave WWE in the past, use the platform it gave her, which I know she's grateful for, and she'll always say that. But now she has all this money and all these, she has her podcast, she has all these different avenues now that she's doing with the money she has, because she's living her life freely, how she wants to live, and she doesn't give a shit what people think about her. So I feel like that's another thing that kind of made me be like, yeah, why should I give a shit what people are saying about me? Like Mandy is living her best life, and people say the most disgusting things possible about her. Like some of the things I see is just absolutely disgusting. But she doesn't care. Like she's living her life. She's happy with her husband. She has a beautiful house. She has her dogs. She's living her best life. So I cannot be happier for her. And I look at her as an inspiration of what my life can be if I want it to be.
Yes, I was about to say when I started to see like the articles and things come out about like how much more money people are making like outside of having been in NXT, and I'm just like, what is happening? Like this is crazy, right? Like I can't believe like hearing people say like for example, like even Shotzi, I just spoke to her, she was just here on the channel, and she was basically saying I've made more money now that I'm gone than I ever did before. And I'm just like, what? Like this is you wouldn't think that is what I'm saying. Like you would think that that's the place where you're making all the money. And Mandy, when everything came out about like how successful she was on the platform she's on, it's one of those things where you're just like, wow, like that is so incredible. It's crazy how like, again, I used this word with Shotzi in her interview, but it's like a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
You think the world's crumbling down, but then there's so many different ways to make income nowadays with content creation and just all these different platforms, that it's not the end all be all anymore to like just be at one place. Now the people that are the most successful are pulling in from multiple directions.
Yeah, and obviously it's nice to be at WWE, and it is a security blanket of you have your check coming in every week, and hopefully if you get more successful, the money's going to get better. And I feel like that's kind of how it is in WWE. You work with knowing that the money will be better if you like really make it big. But that's the thing now, like with WWE, I feel like, and that's no hate on them, but you are in a box with WWE. You are signed to a contract. WWE is very, I don't want to say they own you, but they are very hands-on, that you cannot make, I'm sure there's exceptions to the rule and stuff, but all the money you're making is with WWE. So you are kind of in a box of what you can do financially. So then when you come out of that, it's like, yes, it's a little bit scary because now there's not that security blanket of that you constantly have a check coming in every week, but you do. It's just I have to now make that money myself and figure out ways to keep it coming, and different ways to make it, wrestling, OnlyFans, whatever else I decide to do. I'm thinking about maybe opening a coffee shop eventually. It's something I'd like to do, but just little stuff like that. Like now I'm learning to because I've never had never had money before. I worked at Dunkin' Donuts. Like now I'm learning all these things, and that's another thing. Like Mandy and her husband Sabby are so good with helping me. Like now I'm learning so much about investing and like where to put your money, so it grows and all this stuff. I'm like learning how to have money and make money off of having money. I'm learning all these like new adult things in life now, which is all new but it's all very exciting, and it's just like another step of life now that I'm entering and just navigating and figuring out. But I'm very grateful to have Mandy and her husband Savvy have been so helpful with everything. So
I really do think that's so great. And it's awesome. It really is awesome. I feel like you're just like the world is your oyster. It's at your feet. Before we wrap up this interview, I do want to get your favorite career moments thus far. Which ones would you say are like your top three?
I would say number one probably was when I dove off the War Games cage.
Ooh, yes.
That was like, I had just gotten there. I was always a fan of like hardcore, crazy wrestling, like anything that involved like weapons or cages or anything like that. And I was so young too. And I just remember I loved like the War Games matches. So then when I found out I was in it, I don't know if it was, I wanted to do it just because I loved that type of wrestling, but I think it was also kind of a like proving myself type of thing. Like I had just gotten there. I was like, I'm the one that's going to the top of the cage. I'm that. And it was like, I was the very first one to call it. Like as soon as I heard I was in the match, I was like, I'm doing it. So that was really cool. I remember being so scared because we had done it in rehearsal once, but in rehearsal there were no like, I think in the actual one you can see there's like these black beams that are kind of right there. So like there's only like this little tiny space for my feet. But when we had rehearsed it, like the day prior they had the cage set up, there were no black beams there. So I had a lot of room for my feet. So I felt a lot more comfortable. But then when I got up there, I realized there were like these black beams up there. I was like, oh my God, you could see me like trying to like turn around and like place my feet. That was scary. But I just remember being up there and I was like, well, I just got to do it now. I'm already up here.
It's just like adrenaline.
Stacey's the best. She's like a wrestling fan too. So she was super down to do it. She's like, I'll be the one on the table. Like she's insane. But that was one of my favorite memories. And then I feel like winning the tag titles with Roxanne, just because that was like, it just felt like a very full circle thing. Like we talked about this, dreamed about this, we're here together, and then we won the belts together. It just felt very like, I don't know, very full circle and like a moment that I'll always remember. I don't know, I feel like there's so many. Wrestling Nattie was a good one too, because I watched her as a kid and watched Total Divas, and she was like one of my first ever favorite like female wrestlers when I first started watching in like 2010, 2009. So getting to wrestle her was great because she's just one of those people who have obviously grew up in the business. It's in her blood. She knows wrestling like the back of her hand, and she's so sweet and helpful. And she was very helpful, especially to me at that time. I was so new to do a match like that, and it was like one of my longer matches. And wrestling Nattie, she's a legend. So I remember being so scared, but then she made the match so easy. It was so much fun. And I remember afterwards just being like, okay, if I can do that, then I can do any match. Like I'll be fine. But that was a lot of fun.
And how did you like working with Bailey?
That was one of my dream matches, so I'm so glad I got to do that, especially like towards the end of my time there, because we had gotten so close just over the last few years. So it was so cool to be able to wrestle not only my idol, so that was going to be cool because it was like little 8-year-old me or 10-year-old me, however old I was, watching her, like being able to put that into real life was so cool. But also I remember being so nervous just because I'm always nervous. It never changes. I've been the same amount of nervousness since I started, but she made me so comfortable. I was nervous not only to wrestle her, but also just in front of everybody. Like this is a big match, and I didn't want to disappoint anyone in the back, and I didn't want to disappoint the fans, and I especially didn't want to disappoint her because I have watched her for years and wanted to wrestle her for so long. So I was so nervous, but she just made me so comfortable, and she was just so easy to work with. I feel like we had such good chemistry. Then afterwards, she's just a goof. We're just laughing and joking immediately. Like it was just so much fun. Like those are one of the matches that I had that I just remember having so much fun, even though I was so nervous.
But I was gonna say you're only nervous because you care. Once you stop being nervous, it's one of those things of like, oh, do you still care? I've heard that, so I'm just running with it. But I did also want to ask you one more thing. Now that I'm sorry, I'm actually saying like, I got one more thing, but then something else pops up. I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta ask her about this too. Now that she's here, it is. I know you've always been a big fan of Soraya Paige. Have you had any chance to like connect with her at all?
I've talked to her a few, like here and there over Instagram. I don't think I've ever actually seen her like in person except when I was like a fan. I don't think I've ever like we haven't spoken in person yet, but she'll message me every now and again, and I'll send her. I think it was Bailey actually like a few weeks ago texted her a picture because in my family's bathroom at home back in Chicago, I have a Paige poster that I hung up forever ago when I was like 14. They just never took it down, but now I'll go back and it's still up there. And now I'm like, this is kind of weird now. It's like now I like know her, so it's weird that there's like a picture of her just above my bathroom, but it feels weird to take it down because it's like a part of at this point. So I said that to Bailey, and she's like, "That's hilarious." I'm sending this to her right now, but it's a staple in my parents' house at this point. I don't think it's getting taken down anytime soon.
It's become a family photo at this point.
It's for real. She's part of the family.
I love that. Well, on that note, I just loved having you on here. I'm so excited to see what you do in the future, and what some of your goals. I didn't even ask you. That's always the question I ask to everybody at the end of my podcast. I'm like, what are your goals for the short term, long term goals, things that you want to manifest?
I just want to have fun. Like I just want to be happy and have fun and fall back in love with wrestling. I don't think it's not that I don't love wrestling. It's just I'm at a weird point where it's like I'm trying to find that spark again, and I feel like just after I get back in the swing of having these matches, and I'm getting the creative freedom again, and just feeling it again, feeling the energy, and just feeling creative and all the things about wrestling that you're supposed to love. I think I'll immediately just find that spark again. So.
Oh my gosh. I feel like you're finding it, and the more shows you do, you're just going to like continue to get back in your rhythm. And, the world is your oyster, and a lot of good things are going to come your way. I just know it. I can feel it. So, Elayna, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. Please tell the people where they can follow you, support you, check out your OnlyFans, everything.
Yes, check out my OnlyFans. All the links are in my bios on my link tree, but I believe my Instagram's Elayna Black. Elayna Black Real, I believe, is my Twitter, or maybe Elayna. Oh, it's either Elayna Black or Elayna Black Real, but the links are in my link tree on my Instagram, which is Elayna Black. So I have a YouTube channel. That video that I did with Kyle is on there, and then I'm gonna start doing. I don't know what I want to do, but I want to do some type of YouTube series. So if anybody has suggestions, let me know. But yeah, I do have a YouTube, so lots of things to come.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to post the links to all of that in the description box below to make it easy for you guys to find and support Elayna. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. I really hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. If you did, make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.